Yemen is our people. How much time we got? Somebody didn't show up. And then we have, of course, Lady Khadijah. All praises be to Allah. The businesswoman, the senior businesswoman who had inherited her wealth from her father. And she's employing these people to take care of her resources and going on these caravans and being honest businessmen to bring back her share. And she focuses upon this one person, Muhammad, who's doing quite well. And she's so impressed by him to the fact that she wants to put him in charge of her resources and then offers her hand to him in marriage. In essence, I can share all of this with you, even though she was 25 years his senior. And the Prophet accepted. And with the wealth of Khadijah and the time that he had, that he could contemplate the conditions of his people, he went up into the cave and was in contemplation of all the things that he saw as ills in the society. And where he met the angel who was pressing upon him with that first revelation of read. And his response was, I cannot read. And it keeps going, read in the name of your Lord who created you. And you are reading your creation. You're reading the creation that Allah has given you. And everyone who studied science in those ecosystems have to come to know that this is all Allah's creation. And you are to learn from it. Just think of how many inventions were just made from the creation, even to the point of another bird to study. It's the hummingbird. The hummingbird's ability to fly backwards and to hold itself in place, I read, was the foundation of creating the helicopter. We create from Allah's creation. You didn't just go to sleep and dream these things up. It was out of Allah's creation. Allah tells us, do not be dishonest and do not exploit people. It tells us to be honest in our measures. In Surah 17:35, and give full measure when you measure, and weigh with an even balance. This is better and best in the end. Surah 2, verse 275, Allah has permitted trade and has forbidden interest. He condemns fraud. Woe to the defrauders, those who take full measure when they buy from people, but give less when they measure away for buyers. Surah 2, Ayah 282, this verse, the longest in the Quran, emphasizes writing down your debt and contracts, and your obligations to avoid disputes. Put your transactions to writing. Put your transactions to writing. And it says, and do not mix the truth with falsehood or hide the truth knowingly. And if the debtor is at a hard time, then grant time to ease to a time, grant time for ease. And in some cases it says, if you're in a position, even forgive the debt. And there's the saying to us, some of us fear death. Some of us may even fear death to the point of cutting short the gestation of a child out of fear of death. And Allah says to us, do not fear death. And it says to those who are in positions, do not oppress people with death. And look at us today, the richest people in the world. We can count about 4. Elon Musk, and this is an old count, was $839 billion. Larry Page, $260 billion. Their wealth, their worth. Jeff Bezos, $252 billion. Sergey Brin, this is Alphabet Google guy, $240 billion. The top 10 richest individuals are worth a combined $2.6 trillion. And then you have the world's 12 richest individuals own more wealth than the poorest half of the global population of 4 billion people. They have more wealth than the poorest half. And we know in Al-Islam it says that wealth should circulate. You give zakat, you give sadaqah. And I was most proud when we did the article, and this is to Ishmael's account on Facebook. I said, you need to do the article on our new mayor in New York City. And they did a great job. The picture of Zoran Kwame Mamdani. You know, Kwame is the African king. And when you study Zoran, he calls himself the Democratic Socialist. And when he was interviewed during his campaigns, it was pushed upon him, you're not a capitalist? What do you think about capitalism? You want to do away with capitalism? What do you think about the billionaires? He said in his response, there shouldn't be billionaires. They shouldn't even exist. You have people who need basic necessities that are not being cared for. The street is overrun with people who cannot find homes. Even veterans who fought in your wars are homeless on your streets, and you can't find a way to give them a little cubby house and some food to carry them through the day. They got to be scrounging through garbage. These people that you're going to send off to war now, you know the draft is coming back, right? 18 to 24-year-olds in December. My son is older than 24. I guess Eric and Don Jr. are older than 24. I think they should go first. You know, since all the wealth is going to them, even if they win that war, it's still going to them. And in acknowledgement, again, I want to point out in closing, one sister in the industry of journalism, the newspaper business, she's my standard bearer, is Ida B. Wells. I don't know if y'all know Ida B. Wells. And you know, you try to connect yourself with the best. Ida B. Wells was born in Mississippi. I was born in Mississippi. Ida B. Wells was born in Itabena, Mississippi. She was freed from slavery when she was 9 months old. Wow. That's when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. She was still a baby, so she was freed too. And we forget our babies were slaves. Frederick Douglass himself, who was signed by a slave master, was sent from that plantation over to another plantation. He was slave. He was a slave. And the thing about Frederick Douglass, I'll get back to I have some other things I want to say about Ida B. Wells. Frederick Douglass, you know, it's illegal to even teach us how to read. Some slave master has said, what's the use of an intelligent slave? So it was illegal to the point where even white people who tried to teach you how to read, they were punished. You know, we had that some term, some lover, they could be killed also. But when Frederick Douglass was sent to the next plantation, the plantation owner's wife took a liking to him, and she taught him how to read in spite of the law. But when he got older, and he became a newspaper man, North Star was a newspaper that was started by Frederick Douglass, and people, and you know, he was the ambassador to Haiti. His oratory skills were so great they made him the ambassador of Haiti. So the masses of white people used to admire his ability. Like Donald Trump told that African in his office, "You speak English so well." you speak English so well. Who taught you? And the man was from Liberia where the language is English. You speak English so well. And so they would say the same thing about Frederick Douglass. You speak so well. And they would add, it must be because your father was white. And Frederick Douglass' response was no. He said, my black mother, who worked in a household with her slave master, taught herself how to read looking over people's shoulders. She saw what they were doing and taught herself how to read just by being in the presence of them. He said that was her tenacity, and that's why I got my ability to read from. He gave it back to his black mother. So Ida B. Wells is an exceptional human being. Born in Mississippi, it had been a poor area. She came from a family that was sickly. And she being an older child, she actually had to take care of her younger siblings. You know, she was the caretaker even as a child. Her mother couldn't take care of them, so she took care of the siblings. And out of all that, she managed to grow up and present herself to one of the earliest HBCUs started in Mississippi, Rush University. And she was one of the founders of Rush. But Ida B. Wells was so in a hurry. She didn't slow down for people. You know, if you weren't moving fast enough, you had a problem with her, she gave you a problem. And I was told that the Rush University co-founder told her she should go on up in Tennessee, you know, give you some more room. And so she went up into Tennessee, up in Fisk University, and so she's on the train going to work one day. And this is before our beloved mother Rosa Parks, but Ida B. Wells is on the train, and the train is filling up, and they tell her, you got to give your seat up for a white person. And Ida B. Wells said, I ain't giving my seat up. And so it ended up, they put her off the train. And Ida B. Wells, as tenacious as she was, she sued. She sued the train company.
Wow.
And won.
Oh, wow.
But with the cases in the Jersey bid against her, they overturned in an appeal, so she didn't get that $500. But she went on to start a newspaper. And her objective was, she started the newspaper to fulfill research on 3 lynchings. These were persons that she knew by name who had been murdered by lynching. She knew their names, and she went out to uncover who lynched these men. So it wasn't like she was just picking up the idea, the historical idea of African-American men that are being lynched, and we just want to do a historical piece. No, she wanted to bring somebody to justice. She wanted a court hearing. She wanted a court case. She was developing information that would, not only was she writing articles about it, but she was developing background information that could be used in courts. And so she and her husband had started a newspaper in Memphis, and the newspaper's firebombed her. So she has escaped. She's not there that day. She escapes that firebomb. She escaped to Chicago. And when she gets to Chicago, John Abbott, the founder of the Chicago Defender, gives her a job. She pulls up her seat there, and she begins writing again, investigative reporting on lynchings. She is so well known for her work her undisputable research that she's given a Nobel Peace Prize posthumously in 2020.
Wow.
She died in 31. But her record as an investigative reporter could not be denied. It just kept showing up. And they had to acknowledge it, and posthumously they give her the Pulitzer Prize, which is the highest honor in journalism that you can get. And then after that, in 2022, Mattel releases the Ida B. Wells Barbie doll. And it's a keepsake. I get one for my granddaughter just so that she would have, you know, and this Barbie doll is dressed in a long garment, carrying a briefcase and a notepad, the reporter's notepad. So it is a keepsake if you keep those kind of things. And that was released in 2022. Closing out, we acknowledge Frederick Douglass, but that wasn't the first African American newspaper. We had Freedom's Journal. Freedom's Journal was started by two African free slaves, Cornish and Rushmore. And the masthead of that newspaper said, "Too long have others been speaking for us, we need to speak for ourselves." Frederick Douglass' North Star and his masthead, we knew what he was, the abolitionist. He still was freeing people and directing them to use the North Star for freedom going north. Malcolm started Muhammad Speaks on behalf of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as Imam Ismail mentioned, Malcolm would refer to newspapers as the guns, the big guns. And he said the mainstream newspapers downtown, when they turn their big guns on you, who's going to protect you? And he said, you need to have your own guns. And he referred to the African American newspapers. And he said, and they should be well oiled and ready, which meant that you had to financially support them. So he said, and this is before Muhammad Speaks, he said, I don't care what newspaper you buy, but buy a black newspaper. And that's why he encouraged the people to support African Americans defending themselves with their own publications in their own way as they are needed. So that put the importance of having your own newspaper, your own voice piece on the radar for us with Malcolm. And Dr. Sierra Lincoln, the former head of the African Studies at Howard at one time, Dr. Sierra Lincoln came to our event, A Time to Be Grateful for Muslim Journal, and he gave a narration on Malcolm and Muhammad Speaks. And he said nobody was talking about Africa at that time. He said nobody but Malcolm in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And those are the types of legacy, not just that we need a publication ourselves, but those are the type of legacies that we need to uphold as much as we think about upholding our family names and carrying on the goodness of our families. The Muhammad Speaks was changed into the Bilalian News at first by Imam Muhammad, then he came into office, and then he transitioned into the Muslim Journal. And we were so happy, this is a sample that's in your book, when also we did the newspaper on the opening of New Africa store here in Norfolk. And we want to have a store with this same marquee at the top where everybody who drives up and down the street see it. In Chicago, we talk it, but we just fall short of doing it. And we want brick and mortar. We want something physical. We know you can do a lot of stuff on the internet and Facebook. You know, it's fast. But a lot tells us, do not build your houses on sandy beaches. Elon Musk can unplug you anytime he feels like it. So let us think concrete, let us think longevity, and let us think in the concepts of our religion, which will carry us to our destiny. And if we fall short, if we don't see it, years are getting short for some of us. If I don't live to see it, I know it's going to happen because of how sad it is. And we know that our destination, our reward is with our Lord.